Welcome to a guide on how to build a desktop PC in 2021, presented by Will Wang, Dawson Armstrong, and Anthony Nager. In this video, you will learn about each component of the PC, how to pick each component, and most importantly, how to build a PC. Firstly, let's cover what each part does. The CPU is the central processing unit. It's basically known as the brain of a computer. From the name itself, it processes information. Its main job is processing actions with calculations using input data from various locations. This part will greatly impact the performance of a PC. And it's most important that you pick the correct CPU for its parts. In this case, we have the Intel i9. The GPU, or also known as the Graphics Processing Unit, like the CPU, processes graphics from different applications on the computer. It's a processor to render in all the graphics on the screen of the monitor. The GPU can also be used to help the CPU process information. For the GPU, we picked the GeForce RTX 3080. The CPU cooler's main job is absorbing the heat from the CPU and pushing it out of the computer. CPU cooling comes in two diverse types: water cooling and air cooling. The major difference between the two is that water cooling uses water or a similar liquid to transfer the heat and cool the CPU, whilst an air cooler uses air to absorb and redistribute the heat. Our pick was the Thermaltake TH240 liquid cooler. The RAM card, short for random access memory, is where the PC stores its short-term memory. This will be the information the PC needs to read and edit on while you work on that Word doc, talk in the Teams meeting, watch a movie, etc. The more multitasking you do, the more RAM you will need. The RAM we chose was the Kingston 32GB Kit DDR4. The PC case is the simplest part of them all. The PC case is a container that stores all the other PC parts together. The PC case is important to have good airflow due to the heat generated by the components. The PC case we picked was the Thermaltake V250 mid-tower case. The fans in a PC are there to keep the computer from overheating. Due to the energy used within the components, fans are there to prevent overheating, as overheating can potentially damage parts of the computer. The PSU is the main power supply for the PC, and this energy will convert AC to low voltage regulated power. The PSU gives everything from the CPU to the RGB on your computer its power. We used the Thermaltake ToughPower GF1 850W PSU Gold. An SSD or a hard drive is where all the computer's permanent data is stored. Depending on the price point, SSDs and hard drives can bottleneck your computer's load times, meaning even if you have top-of-the-line CPUs and the latest GPU, your computer may still load things slowly. Therefore, it's important to understand and research the storage unit you are going to purchase beforehand. We got our hands on the Samsung 970 EVO 2TB M.2 drive. The motherboard is used to connect many of the crucial components of the PC. Most motherboards hold RAM, CPU, GPU, as well as connecting the power fans, coolers, and storage devices. The motherboard is directly connected to the PSU. Make sure when you're choosing this part, your motherboard is compatible with the CPU. We decided on using the Gigabyte B560M DS3H AC. Now you understand the parts of a PC and what they do, let's go to Will and discuss how you can pick the parts and how to build the PC.
How can you pick the parts? If it's your first time building a PC or you don't know how much about the compatibility of parts, we recommend you go to your local PC parts store and tell them about your budget and usage. Often, they will be more than happy to help. If that is not an option, or you think you have enough information, we recommend you using the website PC Part Pickup. On the website, you can find PC guides, complete builds, or use their system builder to build your own custom PC. Their website will be in the description. The system builder will also state the estimated price as well if the components are compatible. If neither of those ideas sound suitable, feel free to comment on this video your budget and usage and we will send you a list of recommended parts. Part 3. Building the PC. Before you start build of the PC, you need to make sure that you have a large, clean work area. We recommend a nice sized table. In terms of tools, most commonly you will only need a Phillips head screwdriver. The first thing you want to understand when building a PC is that it's much easier if you complete as much as you can outside of the case before installing parts into the case. Step 1 is to find your motherboard and carefully remove it from its packaging. After you have removed the motherboard, place it onto its box. Next, lift the CPU bracket so you can install the CPU. Then remove the plastic from the CPU socket if there is any. Then remove the CPU from its packaging and line up the CPU with the CPU socket and gently place down. Once it is resting in place, push down on the CPU bracket and lock it in place. Next up, we will install our SSD. In this case, we'll have a M.2 SSD, meaning it is installed directly into the motherboard. But if you have a hard drive or any other type of SSD, go to the description of this video and click on the SSD installation video. With that all out of the way, place the M2 firmly into its slot and screw in. Make sure not to screw in too hard or the SSD may break. Now for the RAM. The RAM is arguably the easiest part to install. Firstly, open each RAM slot. If you have 4 RAM drives, open every slot. If you have 2, open one, leave a space, then open the next slot, leaving one gap. This is important to not make the PC use dual channel RAM. Following that, remove the RAM from the packaging and line up with the slots. Once lined up, push firmly down until you hear a click. Directly after finishing up on the motherboard, go to your PC case. Remove the tempered glass and install the I/O shield. After installing the shield, gently insert the motherboard into the I/O shield and line it up with the screw holes on the case. Screw in the motherboard, making sure you don't make the screws too tight that it can break the board in any way. Depending on whether you have an air cooler or a water cooler, this next step can change. In our case, we have a water cooler. But if you have an air cooler, just check the description of the video and find the air cooler installation video. With water coolers, you will have to connect fans to your radiator. As you can see, we had to do that, and it may take some time. After you have completed building the CPU cooler, install a piece size of thermal paste onto the middle of the CPU. If it came with your cooler, then install the CPU cooler onto your CPU. Make sure to read the manual of your specific CPU cooler to correctly install the cooler. Now would be the time to install that external hard drive or SSD. But as we had an internal M.2 drive, it is now time for us to install the GPU. GPU installation is similar to the RAM installation process, as the slots are very comparable. Firstly, remove the GPU from the packages. As you can see, this is the PSU connector and will insert into the PSU slot on the motherboard. On the left side of the graphics card will be the ports. Remove the plates adjacent onto the top of the PSU slot and install the GPU into the slot until you hear a click from the slot. Once you hear the click, support the bottom of the GPU while you screw into the open plates. Lastly is the power unit. Remove the backplate from your PC if you haven't already done so, and place the PSU into the place on your case labeled PSU location. To view this, check your case's manual. Make sure the fan is facing down, then screw in and secure. After this, simply connect all the components to power and you are finished. The PSU and motherboard manual will show you where that goes. Also make sure you keep good cable management in the back of your case to help in future troubleshooting or upgrades. We recommend zip ties to achieve this. Your PC is now complete. Install the backplate, Connect your PC to a monitor and turn it on. The first boot can take anywhere from 10 seconds to 2 minutes to complete, so don't worry if it immediately doesn't show up. If the monitor shows a boot screen, you have successfully built a PC. From here, install the latest version of Windows and start using it. We hope you have enjoyed and learned something from this video. Any problems, feel free to ask a question in the comments. Thanks for watching.